Hello, in this video I'm just going to show how to solve derivation 1.0003. Okay, so we have our first line. Our first line should always be show conclusion. We're doing a direct derivation, so we make no assumption, and therefore we want next to bring in the premises. So we'll do that. Bring in the first premise, bring in the second premise, bring in the third premise. No premises left, we're done with this stage. So stage 1, show the conclusion. Stage 2, bring in the premises. We've done both of those. We want to move to stage 3. Here we're going to look for inference rule applications. And we're really looking mostly for modus ponens and modus tollens, because that's what gets us really new stuff. Double negation, introduction, and elimination is not what you really want to think of as using in order to set up for modus ponens and modus tollens. So to do MP or MT, we need conditionals, and we need to do modus ponens. We need the antecedent of the conditional, what comes before the arrow, that's the main connective. To do modus tollens, we need the negation of the consequent being what comes after the main connective. So if we look at line 3, so what we want to do is look, where are our conditionals, what do we need to do modus ponens or modus tollens with those conditionals, and then do we have the other premise? If we do, we'll apply modus ponens and modus tollens. And in thinking about that, we're not worried about what we're going to get. We're going to get something useful. We don't actually care so much what. The very first question is just, can we make inference rule applications? And in particular, can we make modus ponens and modus tollens applications? If we can, great, we'll do it and see what we get. If we can't, then we can't do anything. So it doesn't matter in terms of thinking strategically at the most fundamental level, maybe, what we're going to get. What matters is, can we do it or not? So we look for conditionals. And so we look at line 3. Well, line 1's a show line. Can't use it. Line 2 is not a conditional. Line 3 is a conditional. It's if R, then not Q. So we would need, for modus ponens, we need the antecedent. That's R. We don't have R, because here we have P, and if P, then Q. We don't have R by itself on a line. So we look at the conditional again. We ask, can we do modus tollens? And to do modus tollens, we need the negation of the consequent on a line. Okay. So the consequent is not Q, so the negation of the consequent is that, not Q. So we want to see, well, do we have not Q on any of our lines? Nope. Okay. If we had Q, we could apply double negation, and we would get not Q, and then we could do modus tollens, but we don't have Q either. So we don't seem to have what we need to do modus ponens with line 3, R, and we don't seem to have what we would need. We would need not Q for modus tollens, and we don't seem to have either of those by themselves on a line. So line 3 for right now looks useless. Now we look at line 4. So if we were going to do modus ponens, we need the antecedent. What's the antecedent? P. So we want to look and see, do we have P? And if we look, well, line 1, no, because that's a show line. Line 2, P. Oh, yes, that's what we need. So, okay, we have a conditional on line 4, and we have the antecedent of the conditional on line 2, and that means we can apply modus ponens. And we get Q. So that's good. Now we want to think about, what can we do now? So again, are we done? Well, to finish, we're going to do a direct derivation. That's what this hint is telling us. And to do a direct derivation, we would need to get not R. And we don't have not R, so we're not yet done. Okay. So we need to keep going, and we want to do more inference rule applications. So we want to continue to do modus ponens and modus tollens. Now we've used line 4 with modus ponens, and once you've used a line once with modus ponens or modus tollens, you're not going to need to use it again with either modus ponens or modus tollens. We used line 4, we did modus ponens with it, we're done. Modus ponens again would just give us Q again, and for a reason I'm not going to discuss, if we had not Q for modus tollens, we wouldn't need to do that anyway. We'd be able to finish the derivation in a different way. So we're done with 4. 4 has been all used up. So the only line with which we can do modus ponens and modus tollens at this point is the only other line in which we have a conditional, and that's this line. So we want to think, okay, can we do modus ponens and modus tollens with this line? Well, again, if we had R, we could do modus ponens, and that's what we need to do modus ponens, but we don't have R by itself on a line. It's here inside of this conditional, but we don't have it by itself on a line, so no modus ponens. So what about modus tollens? We might think, oh yeah, here's not Q, and I have Q here, I should be able to do modus tollens. If you try that, what's going to happen? No form of modus tollens is applicable. Let's see why. So we look, it says, is this going to give us much information? No, it's not. So it just tells us that modus tollens doesn't apply in this case. So if we think about, what does modus tollens say? It says if you have a conditional, and it says if you have the negation of the consequent, then you can do modus tollens. Okay. Now, how is that different than 3 and 5? Well, there's the fact that this is an R. There we go. And so there's that. So there's that difference. But the other difference is where the negation is. Here, the negation is there. It's not in the consequent, it's on the other premise. Here we have a negation on the consequent and no negation on the other premise. Now what modus tollens says is if you have the consequent of a conditional, if you take a conditional, find its consequent, and put a negation on front of the conditional, if you add a negation to the consequent, then you can do MT. Well, so what's the consequence of line 3? It's it's not Q. So what happens if we add a negation? We get not Q. So that's what we need to do modus tollens with line 3. We need the consequent of line 3 plus another negation. So we need not Q plus another negation, and that's not Q. So can we get not Q? Yes, we can. We can do it here. So we get not Q with line 6, and then we can do modus tollens. Oh, and now we have what we were looking for. That is the conclusion, and so that is a derivation. And let's get rid of this stuff, and we're done. Okay, so what happened? We showed the conclusion, we brought in the premises, then we looked for modus ponens and modus tollens applications with our conditionals, and we found one with here, with this conditional, because we noticed, oh, we have an antecedent, so we got Q. Good. Then, we might have gotten stuck entirely, but what we did, we said, well, no, okay, we're not going to use line 4 anymore. We're not done, because we don't have the conclusion, so we can't box and cancel with direct derivation. We're not going to use line 4 anymore, so that means we're going to have, line 3 is going to have to help us somehow. How? Well, let me just pause this for a second so it doesn't interrupt us. Well, modus ponens or modus tollens. We don't have what we need for modus ponens, because we need R, and we don't have R. For modus tollens, you might think, oh, we have what we need on line 5, because you just need the opposite of the consequent. But that's not actually what modus tollens says. Modus tollens is pickier than that. It says if you have the consequent and you put a negation on the front of the consequent, you find what the consequent is, you put a negation on the front of it. And if you have that thing on another line, then you can apply modus tollens. Well, so what do we need for modus tollens here? Well, that's the consequent. We need to put a negation on the front of that. We think, oh, we have Q, and with double negation, we can get what we need. We can get 2 negations and then Q. That's what we get with line 5. And then we apply modus tollens to line 3 and 6, and we get what we need. So that's derivation 0003. I hope that was helpful.